3 watches. I've got 1 watch there. I've got 3 watches in there.
Yeah.
But I'm going to pick 2 to talk about.
Okay. But sorry, 3 in there and 1 on the wrist. So I've asked Toby to come along today with 2 watches because we're talking about the 2 watch collection. Just to confirm, we've got 3 watches in the roll and we've got 1 on the wrist.
Toby can't count. Yeah.
So we've got 4 watches, which is fantastic because I now know that I knew you were deep, but I didn't know you were that deep.
No, I'm not that deep at all, to be honest with you. I did have 2 watches that I thought, I'll talk about those watches because I think they kind of make sense as a 2 watch collection, and we'll get into that.
Well, thanks for joining me. It's lovely to see you again. And I think, just as a means to introduce you to those who aren't familiar with your work, we met when you were at Mr. Porter. And you were at Mr. Porter for many years and saw through incredible development, particularly around the watch department, and that you spent most of your time telling watch brands that they could sell watches online.
Yeah.
And they were laughing at you for many, many years.
They did, yeah.
Can you believe that, looking back now? It must be hard to comprehend that that's where we were at that stage and where we are now.
And do you know what? So the first time any of them did sell online with a pure online retailer, which was Mr. Porter and coincidentally, almost at the same time, Hodinkee, but different brands. That was 2013, right? So we're 2023. So that is 10 years actually, but 10 years is not a long time.
From memory, because I was at Revolution when you had the first brand come on board. Was it Bremont?
It was Bremont, yeah.
And then, following Bremont, I think Bell & Ross, no?
No, Zenith came.
Really?
Came straight after Bremont, and then I lose track. Maybe Tag with their first ever connected watch. We did a launch with them on around the Kingsman thing. Yeah. I don't know if that was the 3rd one or not, but
there's a Tag in Kingsman. I can only think back to the second one.
The second film, yeah.
It was Bremont first, then Tag, and then 3rd was the not Piaget, the JLC, the ultra thin, the knife watch.
Yes.
Very elegant.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had those because I just remember that because you were pioneering. I mean, I remember writing about that, and I got into all sorts of trouble actually with Mark Blundell, who was the old PR manager at Mr. Porter, who was actually at William & Son prior to joining Mr. Porter. And he was the first guy that ever gave me a break in watches. But I remember breaking the story before the embargo and getting into all sorts of trouble with them.
Did you? When you were launching Bremont and sort of big announcement about selling watches or luxury watches online or whatever you want to call them,
Crazy to think, and then the brands just started coming after that, and then that gave them confidence to believe that.
At the time they were just sort of saying to me, well, why do we want to sell online? Why would we do that? And I kept saying to them, well, because we're talking to a different audience, and actually our audience are predominantly online versus offline. That's what they do. We go to them, and that's why they shop online, because they do it in a taxi, or they do it on the train, or they do it in an airport lounge. And, these are people you're missing. These are the ones that are not on Bond Street or Madison Avenue.
And then you moved on to Hodinkee, which was pretty cool. I mean, I remember when you left Mr. Porter, I mean, what drew you there? Was that connection to the people there, or was it the opportunity from a business perspective?
Yeah, just it wasn't lined up when I left Mr. Porter. I just left Mr. Porter because the time sort of came. One of the first people to call me was Ben, and I'd got to know Ben over several years. Because, going back to your original thing, he and I used to see each other in Basel or SIHH, and back in 2011, 2012, and everyone was, telling us to get stuff, basically, because he was trying to get them to sell their watch, allow him to sell them at Hodinkee, and I was trying to get them to allow me to sell them on Mr. Porter, and we were both being told, go away. And I sort of knew anyway, because really in the early days, Ben even did some sort of watch content contribution, I think, for
God, I can remember he had a direct link on the homepage to video. I mean, I think it was a video of him driving through. I mean, it was quite seminal because Mr. Porter and Hodinkee both invested heavily in video in the early stage, and that's where I think that edge came, and certainly building that community around good video. But I think he had a direct link on the homepage. I was like, wow, that's incredible.
I mean, we had to invest in convincing those watch brands because one of the things they were concerned about was product photography, and it was important for Mr. Porter that we did all of our own product photography, just in terms of like lighting, style, and so forth. So we had to invest in new camera equipment that was, cameras that were taking up to, I think, 14 different points of focus on a watch. So we would have a shot that was on the minute hand, the hour hand, the second hand, any of the sub-dials, the dial, the battens, and we were taking sort of several high resolution photographs and mashing them together. I mean, you probably know this much better than I do, but at the time, back in 2012, when we were trying to develop this, I mean, we were really kind of going to great lengths to convince the brands that we were going to take excellent quality, photography and present the product in the way that it should be, and we did, and I was proud of that, and actually I think Ben did the same at Hodinkee. It was the execution was important
because there's a whole studio there at the offices of Mr. Porter and Ned Porter, the full-time creative team that.
Totally.
Yeah. And
as there was in the New York office of Hodinkee.
Well, actually, I do know
not
that.
Quite on the same scale, but yeah, they did. Yeah.
I do remember popping in there. The only time I've ever been to the New York office, I remember going up there, and it is it's sort of an industrial vibe, and they're in a slightly different section to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
How did you find your time there? Did you enjoy it?
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I mean, a lot of parallels for me from Mr. Porter to Hodinkee in terms of, I think, Hodinkee was in a sense the Mr. Porter of watches. I think what Hodinkee did for watches online, bringing it online in the first place, talking about watches with a point of view and an opinion that wasn't just spouting a brand's press release, mirrored quite closely what we were trying to do with Mr. Porter in terms of style. So, and I'd always enjoyed it and followed it. Knew Ben, liked him. He called me when I left Mr. Porter. It worked out, and
Did it deepen your issue you already had with watches? Did it cost you financially, that decision?
Yeah, because in the sort of because I didn't end up being there for a huge amount of time. Really only because. It wasn't really the right thing for me to move to America in terms of, family stage and kids and school and stuff over here. But yes, in the time that I was there, I think I bought 4 or 5 watches.
We won't touch on your family story too much because what people need to do is have a look at your Instagram, because I'm a Defender. I know nothing about cars, but I love Defenders. This man has 2 fantastic Defenders that need to be appreciated, but also I like you've created an iconic image of your full body, fully clothed. It's
grumpy selfie.
Grumpy selfie. It's not a naughty snap, a mirror snap.
No, not yet.
Not yet. Although some may get that.
I'm not that desperate for followers. But,
some people may get that, but certainly the general public don't. But they get the full body snap.
OnlyFans.
Which OnlyFans. That's your side hustle. But it also includes not only the shoes, not only the jeans, but it does include the watch, which I'm over the moon about. Now, I don't know what we've got in there, so tell me what we've got. In fact, shall I have a guess what we've got? Should I try and guess? I think I've got an idea. So I know you've got a.
I don't have that many.
Do you have a 50
Fathoms?
You've got a Blancpain. You've got a Blancpain.
Yeah.
You've also got a 1016 Explorer. I've done a wrist check already, and I can see there's a Speedy, but it's the Tintin. And the last one, the 4th one, I think it might be an RWC. I think it might be a Pilot for some reason.
Yeah. My God, you're like.
Have I got them all?
You are psychic. I mean, I have other watches from that. I've got.
Really?
I've got. There's a Saab. I've got my dad's old Omega Chrono Stop. And,
that is unbelievable. God, I'm sad.
I've got my Hodinkee Tudor and things like that. But
God,
so the 4 watches I brought, which were not 4 to display, but it was 2. So the two that I think would be my 2 watch collection is, number 1, my 1016. Slightly forgive because I haven't sort of cleaned or anything.
Why would you? This is exactly how it should be seen. Okay, so tell me the story with the 1016. When did you get this?
So I got that. So there's not a fascinating story behind it, but I got it about 10 years ago.
Okay.
For my 40th birthday, my wife bought me a vintage Rolex, which was a gilt-dialed bubble back with a what's the word for the black and red dial, number carousel.
Oh yeah.
There's a word for it.
Yeah, a roulette.
Roulette,
Yeah,
with the roulette date. Which was lovely, with a white gold bezel, and that was my 40th birthday present from my wife.
You sold it. You traded it in.
So she bought it off my friend Mark, who is a second generation vintage watch dealer. And very shortly after my 40th birthday, I was wearing it. I was having lunch with Mark, and Mark had that on.
Oh God!
And and I really loved it. And I went home, that evening, and said to my wife, "Well, would you be really offended if I swapped the watch?" And she was like, "No, I honestly don't give a you do what you like."
Did she like this when you showed it to her?
Yes, but she does not wear a watch. I can't persuade her to wear a watch. That was actually the first of only 2 times where I've got rid of a watch. So I swapped that in for that. So that was, I'm going to be 50 this year, so that was the year that I was 40, so it was 10 years ago, so that was in 2013.
So, because there must have been a moment when you saw him across the table wearing it, you thought, well, that's quite spicy. Should I ask him if it's for sale? Because some of these dealers, you never know what's for sale and what's not. You please, obviously,
everything's for sale with Mark, isn't it?
What's his business called?
I mean, he does it. It's called. I think it's called MWG Vintage, and I don't know what his company's called because he's my friend Mark. I've been friends with him since we were 13 years old.
Really? And he specialises in Tudors and Rolexes?
Mark Gonzalez, his name is, and his dad was a guy called Franco Gonzalez, and Franco had a watch shop in Rome. He is a contemporary of Arrow Montanari.
Yeah, Mr. John Goldberger.
Exactly.
Who we were talking about earlier, and Britt, who's filming today, doesn't know anything about watches, but she's learning a great deal as we go. But I said, one day there'll be a documentary about that man. One day there'll be a Netflix documentary, and we'll be like, wow, this is the truth.
Yeah. If not about that man, just about how gloriously hairy his wrists are,
and tan,
and how well he can wear a sort of a Milanese bracelet,
or a double-breasted pinstripe jacket with a denim shirt that's clearly 40 years old.
Yeah, what a legend!
No one else can.
What a legend! Yeah.
Incredible watch. Watch only.
Nice plug for Mark, though.
Mark, yeah, we'll link up Mark's store on here.
Me a pint.
Watch only. So he was said it's for sale, but
no. I've got box and papers.
Yeah.
Yeah, which of course makes it
unbelievable.
Slightly better.
Is the dial straight? Yeah, it is. It's and beautifully loomed, and one of the things that you often see is the hands are changed or something, but these are beautifully matching.
Yeah, it's all matching. It's all original.
How do you feel about proportion? Because you're an elegant man. You've spent your life in clothing and style and design. This was ahead of its time. Those that adopted this were ahead of their time, I think.
Yeah. Well, my very, very first sort of proper watch I also got from Mark. I bought it sort of a gift to sell for my 25th birthday, and it was a Rolex Oyster Date Precision, a wind-up one. So that's a 36 mil as well. This is 36 mil. The dimensions are perfect. I mean,
wonderful.
What is it? I think 63 to 89. They made the 1016, which makes it the longest running single reference, I think, in the Rolex catalogue. And there's a reason for that, right? And I think I like history and stories more than I like necessarily mechanics or movements or things like that. And I don't I haven't got like any like big, really expensive, flashy watches either.
You're not a Richelieu kind of guy.
Not yet. No.
Fine. This is the antithesis of Richelieu. Not to say there's anything wrong with Richelieu, but this is just understated, beautifully elegant. One of my favourites. Just beautiful.
Yeah, really understated. I think the 1016, 369 dial. The proportions are great. The colour's great. It's 1974. That one. And you wear it with a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, and you can wear it with a dinner jacket if you want, and it looks great with both. And also you don't see that many people wearing them.
No.
And if you do happen to sort of see someone, I sat next to a chap on a plane once, and he was wearing one, and I said, "You're a 1016." He was like, "Yeah." And so, of course, we then spent.
Did it make you like it, or like it more, or like it less? An hour and a half talking about
watches.
Sometimes when you see something else that someone else is wearing.
Yeah, no. He didn't put me off it. He was all right. He was a nice guy. He wasn't like a total watch nut. It was the only watch he had, but he loved it. I probably told him a little bit more about the watch than he knew.
Yes.
But it's sort of like, it's a little bit of a club. It's like the Defender Club, you know, where you wave at each other when you drive past. The Rolex Explorer 1016 is the Defender of watches.
There you heard it first. There you go.
There's a quote.
We'll finish on that one too. The second watch, how do you balance that off? Because truth be told, that watch can do anything.
Practically, in a 2-watch collection, you know, that's doing a lot of jobs. But then I need something that's, you know, that's more kind of robust and the. So there you go. So there's the Blancpain tribute to the 50 Fathoms
yes.
mil spec.
Yes. Limited edition.
Limited edition.
250.
Was done for Hodinkee and launched in December 2020.
Now it's an anniversary year for the 50 Fathoms this year. I don't think they can better that.
No.
I don't think they can better that.
I don't think they can.
Ben and the team have slithered.
They went too soon, didn't they?
That is unbelievable, wow. I mean, for me, it's always, you know, there's a lot of controversy as to whether they were first or not. Apparently, according to some photos I've seen of the patent application, it came after the Submariner, actually not in 52, what people thought, but 54. But to me, it's just got its own aesthetic to it. It's got its own vibe. It's got something design-wise to it that's a little bit more exaggerated than a sub.
Yeah, I think, you know, my kind of personal history with this watch started as just a sort of an enthusiast following the vintage market and auctions, and really becoming, not obsessed, but I loved the Tournet Rayville story.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, there was one that was auctioned by Phillips in a watch auction that we did, collaboration with Mr. Porter and the Rake.
You styled it up.
So that's kind of how my kind of interest in Blancpain and 50 Fathoms started. You know, what I liked was the story, the cheeky story about how Blancpain, you know, dodged the radar of the American import kind of rules by taking the branding off and supplying the military through their New York dealer, and then the sort of the Rayville being the sort of the reverse of the town where the factory was, and things like that. So I think it's, you know, that's just a, you know, a hilarious story all round. So I was really into them. And then I started as, I'd been working with Hodinkee for, I don't know, nearly a year as sort of part of their sort of advisory board. And then I became CEO in December 2020. And the first LE, limited edition, that dropped after I started as CEO was that. And I hadn't actually kind of put my name down. So I was, I don't know, I was probably busy figuring out
what to do next.
It was quite busy. There were a few things going on at the time.
Yeah.
So the launch arrived, and I hadn't reserved one, but I had a last-minute panic, and I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm a lunatic. I need one of those watches. So,
but was it too late? No.
I sort of obviously put a call in to Russell, who's the chief commercial officer. I was like, Russell, you know, is there one? And he said, yeah, we've got one set aside. You know, do you want it? It's number 200.
I love that. Yeah.
So Hodinkee had 200 to sell. Blancpain had 50. I mean, we sold the 200 in 4 minets. It was, I mean, it's crazy. So, I mean, and if you do the maths on the retail price, that's quite a lot of money in the till in 4 minutes for any business. And for Hodinkee, it was amazing. So it's like, it's become a little signifier for me of my role at Hodinkee and my start there. But beyond that, I just love it I love it because the dimensions, it's 40 mils, it's not too big. You know, the reason why I love the mil spec is the out of all dive watches, the reason it stands out is the dimensions between the bezel and the dial, right? Because they have a fatter bezel, right? So it makes the dial sort of weirdly look smaller, exactly. So I think that was what originally drew it to me, and you know, I don't know.
And even the 50 Fathoms logo for me has always just been done so elegantly. Plus the colour, there's a little bit of colour, popper colour on the dial, which was to highlight water access into the dial, into the case? I
Yeah,
think.
so if the case breaches when you're diving, then the orange bleeds into the white on that disc on the dial. We described the dial actually when the watch was sold as being matte. And it's kind of not matte. It's sort of like deep and glossy and just very, very black. And anyway, and I did change the strap, which a lot of people did, I think.
Yep.
It came on a NATO strap, very, very pure to the dive history, and I changed it for a Blancpain tropical rubber.
That is a brilliant strap, and I love the different.
The strap is like really
it's gorgeous.
satisfying.
It's so
it's
good.
all like
Soft,
sharp and ridgy, and like the corners are all.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. I honestly don't know that you can better that. For me, the date window here has always been a problem on the traditional 50 fathoms.
Yeah. So
I know date windows. Please let us know your thoughts on date windows below in the comments. But this no date window, fat, thick bezel, loom.
Yeah, I mean
symmetry on the dial, color on the dial.
Yeah, I mean, the moment you mention date windows at Hodinkee, of course, you'll get like 400 comments because it's like it's the most controversial thing. But I think it was exactly right to not have it. I think it was exactly right to take the branding off the side of the case
as well. Oh, it's a bit much, isn't it?
It is a little bit much, and that brushed steel.
Oh, it's so good.
The drilled lugs.
It's so good.
It's so good. I just think it's a great watch.
Even that crown, the way that crown kicks out. Yeah, it's so good.
It's really satisfying. Yeah.
And then again, that's typography continued on the case back. It's just and the Hodinkee just written quite subtly integrated into the rotor, but it doesn't scream. Unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
So yeah, something old, something new.
I actually think so. That might be the most balanced out of the 4 or 5 we've done so far. It might be the most balanced duo. And what we'll do is we'll do a round 2 at some point with the other 2 in there. So we'll keep them safe for the moment. We're not in a nightclub, although it might sound like that. We're not in a nightclub. Tell us where we are now. Tell us, just to close, what you're doing now.
Right, yeah.
You're not playing as much golf as you'd like to.
So apologies, the music sort of started going here. So I work in this very trendy office space in King's Cross, which used to be the design studio for Thomas Heatherwick. And it's inhabited now by this brand called Volleback.
Yes.
VOLLEBAK.
We're not in your dressing room. This is not your.
This is not my dressing room. It's not my cupboard. It's just a little meeting room here in the Volleback HQ, and I've been working with them for a few months now. And make clothes from the future is the strap line. They specialise in sort of material technology. Yep. They work with fabrics that no one else is sort of crazy enough to work with to produce garments that no one else will.
I handled this.
That is graphene.
Yes.
That's 100% graphene. That one there is made from sort of the same stuff that they make firefighter suits from. So it's sort of flame retardant.
This one here. This is the firefighters one.
Yeah, so that's the Apocalypse jacket. Sent garbage. It's called the garbage sweater. They want a point of difference, and I think these guys at Volleback are doing a phenomenal job of differentiating. And so I've been helping them out for the past few months.
Tobes, lovely to see you. Thank you for your time.
Cheers, Justin.